interest? I have a declaration of interest, the same item agenda 4. So I shall go out when the boatmen's licences are coming up. Urgent items.
There are 2, Chairman, but I prefer to take them while we're discussing item 4, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely fine. But I would just like to say that I suppose all of you are aware that John Nichols has retired. We sent him a letter from this committee thanking him for all his hard work during the years, and he has been doing it for a long, long time, and we would like to thank him for what he's done. So a letter has gone to him.
Chairman, you appointed Jeremy Phillips last year to take over from him.
Yes.
And I also wrote to John and thanked him for his help to me as well, because he's been a lot of help to me in this position.
I thought at that time we decided that there should always be 2.
I can investigate the possibility of another. You weren't very definite about it, but I can certainly do that.
Chairman, I think in the interests of resilience, then 2 would be, if we could have 2, I think it would be a help for all of us, really.
I think Jeremy is quite often away as well.
Conflict of interest as well.
I'm happy to propose that if there's a seconder.
Can we, all in favour? Thank you. So it's 2.
Right, 2.
Agenda item number 3, licensing and gambling enforcement policy. I'll hand it to Sue.
Thank you, Chairman. In the statement of licensing policy, we have got reference to an enforcement policy, of which we, strictly speaking, have none. We have an agreement with the police, but I felt it would be helpful if we had something that everybody knew what our steps were going to be and how we would handle things. And consequently, I've produced the Council of the Isles of Scilly Licensing and Gambling Enforcement Policy 2017, which I would invite comments for, Chairman, please.
I think it's a very good idea. I think it's good to have it laid out and we know exactly where we are.
I think particularly over the past few years we've realised that we need to not just have policies but to enforce policies, and I think this is particularly timely, really. Anything we can do to strengthen the requirements and to make sure that they are properly, I don't wish to be too strict, but properly enforced, I think is very necessary. So, I am happy to propose this.
I had a question. It was an observation on section 6.6.1. The underlying principle of the policy is that no inspection of a premises should take place without a reason. And then right at the bottom, you've got your risk rating and things like that. So are we saying that unless there's a bit of a hoo-ha, nobody ever attends and nobody ever sort of keeps up to date with any of the premises? So is that, we just don't attend until called, shall we say? Is that right?
I think we get odd comments from time to time, and one of them, for instance, most recently, was that the premises licence was not properly displayed in 2 premises. And normally I would just ring them up or send them an email or something and say, do something about it. But I might actually have gone down, and that would be a reason to go. It's simple, but it's a reason. I wouldn't necessarily go in on unexplained attendances just for the purpose of going there.
Okay.
I don't see that as particularly productive or helpful to either us or the premises licence holders. They know what they have to do, and we will get comments from time to time about them not doing it properly, and then we have a reason to visit.
I only asked it because of the risk rating based on the point system. So how do you know that that point system is being adhered to, in a sense, if you're not familiar with...
Point system is to do with risk, not reason. Do you see what I mean? I wouldn't,
Yeah,
I
okay.
wouldn't have a point system for reasons for visiting.
But do you do that point system once and then go away and never go near it again?
No. The method of risk rating is a point system, and we look at what we're going to do and say, what is the risk in it? Is it 1, 2 or 3? 3 being the highest, and work around that. So the risk rating is a point system, but the reason is...
Yeah, I see it. I
Something
just the
else.
two together. Lovely. It was only a question, really.
Councillor Sample.
Yes, Chairman, first of all, in 1.7, can we remove the word borough and put islands?
Oh, yes, I noticed
sorry.
that.
I have borrowed it, as you can see from something.
Yeah. But my real question is on 6.14, enforcement officers routinely work at night. Who are our enforcement officers?
Me. And, of course, the environmental health.
Yeah. I just thought it said routinely work at at night. Presumably, that is only when necessary.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Councillor Grotto.
Thank you, Chairman. It was a general observation on licensing, and as it's on the table, I thought I would just say that in the last year of my relatively short-lived council career, I've had more representations from the public on licensing issues than I've had in the previous 3, or nearly 3. Therefore, I would suggest respectfully that if there is an opportunity to visit a premises, that within the constraints of the working time that the officers have, that they might give consideration to the fact that I think we actually need to increase our presence, and that possibly a phone call is not as visibly, it's easier to, dare I say it, not exactly fob somebody off on the phone, and I know you would check that the action was taken afterwards, but I think the fact that somebody actually visits your premises does make a bit more of a statement. Just an opinion.
I can do that, Chairman. Yeah, I can do that. I think it's probably a sensible thing just to remind people, perhaps once a year, something like that.
Councillor Sims.
Just referring back to 6.1, the actual sentence. The sentence in isolation looks a bit odd. I just would have said should take place without a reason as outlined in 6.3, because then it makes sensible, because a sentence shouldn't it take place without a reason is just slightly odd.
So you want to add as in 6.3?
Yeah, as in 6.3, and that makes it watertight, really, I think. Just being pedantic.
Chairman, sorry, to be equally pedantic, in 6.3, the first sentence there, rental circumstances resulting in council needing to visit a present, I would put these include, because I wouldn't like it to be an exhaustive list, because we do not know what could come up. So if you say these are, it's almost like they're the only reasons that could be. So if you don't mind, if we could just put the word include, and that gives you a little bit of room for manoeuvre should something completely unexpected happen. Like at 4:30 in the morning.
Any more comments? So are you happy with this policy now as it stands? And you propose it? All in favour? Thank you. Now we're on... Yes. Agenda, item number 4, fees and charges.
Molly, may I just make a suggestion that we change the recommendation to separate voting out? Then all the members who do have to leave for voting can leave for voting, and they can be here for the rest of it.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to take the others first.
No, if we take them in voting as they are, voting, then we can have, and then you and Fraser can go out, and then we'll come back in and do the other street trading and the fixed rate trading.
Is that what you...
I don't care what order we do with them, and I'm just saying it would just make it seem sensible to do that.
Yes.
Yes. Well, they are all in kind of one clump anyway. So I shall leave you to it, Mike.
Yep. Excuse me. Right, splendid. So yes, we're going to look at the boating licences, and Sue has suggested we take each line renewals, Class E, Class D, Class C, and we tend to look at the figure of the monetary figure rather than the percentage figure, because they're all very different, and the percentage figures actually don't reflect very much at all. I.e., if you look at renewals, £38 leaving it as it is, 7% is only £2.66 more. So if we can look at a sensible figure in a monetary sense rather than the percentage sense. So if we can take the first one on 14.1 renewals, if I can have a general feeling on that one, please.
Well, I don't think 3% is enough on any of them.
No,
actually.
I think we agree on that.
I would go as far as a 20% rise.
Okay, any other?
And that would include the renewals. I mean, it does seem quite, it's
So we're just going to look at,
isn't it?
If we could look at one line.
look at
One
one line.
line, right,
So we're
we're
just
going
going to
on
look at
renewals
one line,
first.
each line separately. So we'll do renewals, then we'll move to Class EE. So firstly, we'll just look at that renewals.
Well, I don't know
So-
if anybody would like to even go any higher than that on the renewals.
If that's what you feel,
Presumably
Councillor.
the renewals do not take, it's not like the cost of the examiner, etc. for renewals. This is a paper exercise.
Yes.
Very cheap.
But I think, I agree with Councillor Mumford, I think that could easily go to £45.50.
So 20% on the renewals there.
Rounded up to the
Yeah,
50p.
Councillor Grottick.
Thank you. Can I just ask, is this an annual renewal? So they've gone through their examination and whatever, and this is, so how many times do you have an annual renewal before you need, is it 3 years?
No, it's forever.
It's forever.
So you have your full examination and then you carry on having to annually renew your licence every year. However, I agree, we're very cash strapped at the minute. We're looking at service cuts.
We are. And
Therefore,
I
we've
think
got to be realistic.
You're still only looking at £6.60 at 20%. Yeah, so we've got to
Actually,
look
we
at the
could get-
monetary figure, not
well,
the
they even
percentage.
proposed going even higher.
I just would like to query this. What is this licence for? I'm not altogether sure.
To run a boat.
So it's, and this is for commercial
Yeah.
use. It's not,
I mean,
okay.
It's
So
not
that ba-
private.
Yeah, that's, yeah, I'm just,
That's what I mean, just clarifying.
I was,
I mean, they
that was,
charge
that
for
was,
boats.
that was what I thought. So I would think, I would say,
50% rise.
yeah, 50.
Yeah, you're
I
still
think,
not
I
talking
mean,
huge
£57
figures.
for renewing a boating licence. I mean,
It's
that's,
nothing a year, is it? Absolutely
it's
nothing.
not. So what's the general feeling on this?
Well,
first one?
I'll go back on my proposal
Okay.
and propose a 50% rise then.
I would second that.
Do we have a, so
to
we have a
57
proposer and a
pounds.
second.
So that's £57.
£57.
Yeah. So shall we take a vote on each line?
Yes, please.
So we have a proposal for a 50% rise.
But there's a proposal for a lower one to start with.
Yeah, but I withdrew it.
Oh, you withdrew.
So is that the only proposal that we have? Yeah, it has been seconded by Councillor Sims. So if we've had a proposal and a seconder and no other, can we have a vote on that one, please, on 50%? Okay, so that's renewals at 50%. Next line is the Class EE test. At the present time, it's £51. So if you could go along your line and see what figure you think would be sensible to be added, or indeed kept the same, whatever you decide.
These are all one-offs, are they?
Yes.
They're all one-offs, and I think on that basis they should go up by at least 50 because it's a one-off, and presumably it's, well, you spend a considerable amount more money than that to take your car test, and that's not necessarily the commercial benefit on that.
Can you explain a little bit more, please, what a Class E test actually is?
It's a boat.
boat.
Excuse me. It's a boat hand certificate.
Crew.
It's crew. And it's determining that it doesn't often happen on the water. It's mainly an oral sort of task, and it concerns the use of fire equipment, the storage and where on the boat the fire equipment is, basic radio handling, in other words, the ability to call for help, and how you deal with people. Because that's
Thank you.
mainly your job, helping them on and off.
The operator might presumably have different crew from time to time, so we might bear in mind that he might be having to do this more often, possibly.
No. If you've got a crew certificate, you can go on any boat, but you are, the first time you do it, you have a nominated boat, and you have to know where the fire stuff is and how
Yes.
that radio operates.
And then can you then transfer to another boat?
You can.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's a one-off.
In fact, they do pool the crews anyway, if necessary. They do. Yeah.
So, Councillor Mumford, your light was on. Can I ask?
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Saville.
Yes, I do have some hesitation with this one because I think a lot of these are young people who are home for university holidays, etc., who do the crewing. I mean, and I'm not sure if every boat owner pays for their crew's examination. And I think for a young person home on university holiday I would prefer, I see it that are the more vulnerable people within this whole list because they might do it for one season until, when they're home and then go and get a proper job at, I shouldn't say that, don't quote me, but their career takes a different path, should I say.
So that being
whereas
the case...
all the other tests are normally, they come with more responsibility, obviously, and they tend to be in post for longer. That would be, my only hesitation. But obviously, if the boat owners pay for their examination, I would have no hesitation, but I don't know if they all do.
Perhaps some middle ground then. Can I have a suggestion?
That's only
From what I understand, it is often paid for by the skipper, but as Councillor Saville says, that's not every case. Why don't we, in this particular instance, given that there is some doubt on it, say 20% increase?
Yeah,
And
that's less than £10.
we can find more information for next year. Yeah, but are
Okay.
you happy with 20%?
So that's a proposal. Do we have a seconder for... Yeah, okay. So any other options on that one before we vote on this? No? So if we could vote on that one, please. That's 20% on the Class E test. Thank you. Okay. The next class is DD test. Sue, can you explain what that one is?
You're really testing my knowledge now. DD is key to key. Key to key. So you go between the nominated keys. So from here to Carnear to New Grimsby to the two keys on Briar, St Agnes.
Yeah. And the present rate for that is £80.50.
So,
I'd like to propose a 50% rise on that one.
yeah, I'll second that.
So that's yeah, okay, so that's
That's key to key.
120.
May I ask, the rest of them, they look broadly in line. Are they broadly in line with that key to key? It's to be different places to go, but it's all basically driving the boat, is it?
Yes.
So I would suggest that if other members are amenable to it, that we just do a broad sweep of 50% on all of them, because I think it's the same criteria.
The one exception I would make, and this is because I haven't got enough information, so I'm asking a question. Does safety boat operator take into account things like around the island race, where it's a voluntary thing?
I'm not quite sure where you're coming from. The safety boat operator is somebody with a safety boat certificate.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
But what I mean is, it's not
the island race chooses to employ somebody to do that, they should do. Then that person would have to have that.
Yeah, but what my point was, where there's a distinction between doing this on a commercial basis and also for things where people are just doing it out of the goodness of their heart. Now, I wouldn't like to see those people penalised by a whopping great fee just for something they do once a year just to be friendly.
I see what you mean.
So that's my only worry on that one.
The point about that, I think, is that nobody stipulates that they have to have a certificate. Where it would come in would be where the organisers of the race produce a form for the benefit of the council on risk, And so their risk is lowered if they employ somebody who has a safety boat certificate, or employ, or...
Who is probably a
employ that
professional
person
boatman.
Yes.
Okay, it's just I don't want the wrong people to be penalised by this.
I would say, further to that, I would actually say that it seems to be unlikely that anybody is just going to have that one. Just a safety.
Yeah, you're not, even if you're a volunteer, you're not going to pay £80, are you? So whether you pay 80 or 123, it's sort of almost immaterial in a way.
And I'm almost certain that anybody who's got that will have a number of the others anyway, so I would still run with 50% on that. If you...
Well, let's have a vote on... we're looking at Class D at the moment, even though we've got a proposal to move down 50%. Do I have a proposal and a seconder to say that 50% across the board is... Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and so do we have any other proposals before we vote on that? So if we could have a vote on that, we've got a proposal from a seconder that we take the whole list at 50% from now down to main channel test. Are we talking licensing small craft? Are we going to do that separately?
No, we'll do that separately.
We'll do that separately. So this is down to the main channel test. So if I could have a show of hands for that, please. Okay, thank you. So that's 50% right down to main channel test. Okay, the next one is licensing small craft. And the first, again, you might want to see what your wishes are, but whether you want to go across the board again or whether you want to take them separately.
Should Molly and Fraser come back in there because they don't
I was
run...
just thinking that.
Oh, I see. That's
They don't run
different
small
thing now, are
craft,
we?
do they?
Neither of them hire individually small boats.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are these small craft? Are these people who only take 12 people?
Oh, I see. They're not commercial as such.
They're hire boats, like briar boats, you know.
Oh, I've got you. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, they're all wealthy enough, aren't they?
Chairman, I've just realised my niece is married to a boatyard owner who licenses small craft, so I think I shouldn't vote on this particular item.
Right.
So you're putting that as an interest? You're making that an interest?
Yes, I'd like to declare an interest, and if you think it appropriate, I'm happy to leave.
No.
It's up to you.
Councillor Mumford.
Well, I think I would go with a 50% again, please. If anybody's... They're all businesses, aren't they? They're all businesses. Yep.
Molly was they actually got that far separately, then they went on a 50% block all the way down. So there's talk now of these all being 50%.
What's this block?
Can I just ask a question? 14 foot or greater block. So the £206 would be for 5 boats?
Yes.
Ah.
Yeah, I think that's, not per boat. I think that needs to be, would be.
So
yes.
for a single
It does
boat
say
it would be
maximum
50,
6, doesn't it?
25 and 206 for 5.
Yeah.
Job lot.
And the same with the 14
License one.
up to 14.
I've put a 50% proposal on.
So that's only £40 per boat per year if you've got 5 boats.
I know.
You'll get it in the first 2 days.
You're seconding that?
Exactly.
Everybody in favour? So have we taken that 14.2 for 50%, or are we just
all
going
of them,
down?
yeah.
All of them.
All of them, that's
Yeah,
the
okay,
consensus.
so that's all
at the
then.
moment.
Right.
No one-
Do you wish to say anything else, Avril?
No.
Thank you. Now we want to street trading. Would you
Yes.
like to
One of the urgent items is that I've been asked to ask you to bear in mind these questions whilst you're discussing the street trading applications for fees and charges. We only have 8 licences available, 4 of each type, and they are both available for 6 and 12-month periods. We get almost no take-up on the 12-month period. And I've been asked to point out to you that if we made them all 12 months, it might extend the season, and it would also bring in the council more money. And
Sorry.
should there be more of each type of licence?
The 8 licences that we have, does that include the static?
No.
No, right.
But have
I-
we... Sorry,
sorry.
carry on.
I would go for a 12-month period and not 6 months.
Councillor Savile.
We've got 4 of each at the moment.
Yes.
But we could have more, couldn't
Yes.
we? We haven't... That's not our imposed limit, is it?
We haven't, it isn't imposed by anybody but yourselves.
So we have imposed 4 of each, have
Yes.
we?
Yeah, we did say.
It's in the policy. But you can increase that. At the moment, I've been taking applications and keeping them in strict order, and I have 1 for a Class A and 2 for a Type B. And that's all at the moment. I've got another one, I spoke to somebody this morning, which would be a Type B. But you may want to increase those. Bear in mind that the map that you've got in front of you, the red area is prohibited streets, with the exception of the small yellow square on the Atlantic slip. All the rest are consent streets, which means, you know, perhaps you're encouraging people to go to Old Town as well. I don't know.
I think we did discuss encouraging people to go to Old Town, didn't we? And indeed anywhere else they might wish to, apart from within so many metres of existing premises and all the rest of it. Would you think, what would your advice be, 6 of each? Have you got a feeling about the demand?
I think 6 would make a reasonable increase. You know, it sort of opens it up a little bit more.
Councillor Grotty.
Thank you, Chairman. I would just say you can't decide to pay your business rates for only 6 months of the year. So I absolutely agree with the 12-month period. But I would also say we have to be careful to keep a balance. I think 6 sounds a reasonable compromise, and I could go with that. But I would caution the any number that anyone wants line, because I know from personal experience in the past, it's quite difficult to run a business here. Yes, you're busy in the summer, but you're not busy in the winter. So I think we've got to think of the businesses that contribute to our business rate base, as well as the responsibility towards the tourism mix and the people who want to run a business like this, a street trading business. It's a delicate balance, isn't it? I think 6 is a reasonable compromise, and I could certainly live with that.
So you've got a proposal for 6.
Can we then have a proposal if you would like the number of licences to go up to 6?
I'll propose that.
All in favour of that one?
Lovely. And then
Now we've got to find out.
both time whether you're going to go for a 6 or 12 month period. Are you going to
I'd like to propose a 12-month period without the 6 months.
Anybody second? All in favour for 12 months period?
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody against for a 12 months period? I'm sorry, it's passed.
That's all right,
Because there's-
Molly. Skin off my back, but you might lose some of the ones that are...
You've already got. Yes.
Well, we're going to have to modify the fees to take that into account, and obviously doubling it. No, I know what I meant. We'll have to modify it. If it's a 12-month period and you're actually getting 10 or 12% more business because you can do it into March and into October, you can't double it to reflect the fact, if you get my drift.
Well, we have now decided that we go for 12 months.
Yeah. And now you're just looking at the 12-month fee. We could ignore the 6-month fee because we won't need that. And you're looking just at the 12-month fee. For a first application, in the previous year it was 1,564. This is a grade A licence, which is hot food cooked on the street.
Cooked on the street.
Cooked on the street.
Councillor got it.
I think I would just point out that what you're doing is you've got a double whammy, haven't you? And we should be aware of that perhaps. You've already got people who last year presumably paid for a 6-month fee for a first application of £834. You're now already asking them if you agree just to the 3% increase, for example. They wouldn't be their first application, but somebody in a similar situation would now being paid £1,611. 1,564 if it's the same as last year. So what I would suggest that in view of the fact that we've gone from 6 months to 12 months, I'd like to make, just for this year, a suggestion that we go up 3% in this year and monitor the situation with regard to next year. So we've gone up to the 12 month, but we will, in view of the fact that you can no longer have a 6-month fee, we will only increase the Grade A renewals, in fact all of under item 1, the Grade A licence, the Grade A licence renewal, the Grade B licence and the Grade B licence renewal. We will hold just for this year the increase to 3% for this year and review it at the end of the tourism season.
Yeah, I second that. I would have proposed exactly that for all those reasons.
I'm not saying we shouldn't go up at all. I think 3% is just inflation, if you like.
We've got to bed it in as a system.
Yes, that's right.
And we've got to have a review so we can evaluate the feedback, find out if we do lose people along the way, if we encourage other people, if we extend the season. So I completely endorse what Councillor Mrs. Gottick's just said.
Councillor Sims.
I don't agree at all. The thing, there were nobody who had a 12-month licence previously. Nobody's okay. So effectively, we add 3%. We're doubling it. We're doubling their current licence, which is 6 months. I think the way we should assess this time round is to actually look at the 6-month ones, which is what they want anyway, and what they would opt for, and look at the increase and increase the 6-month ones and transfer that to the 12-month, because otherwise you're looking at a 105% increase, which is yes, I know. I did mention that we need to take into account fees and charges. So I think we need the 12-month licence is actually a 7-8 month licence. That's the level of utility you've got on that. So I think we should be looking at the 6-month fees and putting them up as opposed to putting up the 12-month fees, because without repeating myself.
Is that feasible?
Oh yes, you've got the 6-month fees here.
Yeah.
If you put them up, for instance, a Grade A first application, if you put them up by say 10%, they go from £834 last year to £917.40, or 1,000.
Excuse me, we've just voted. Yeah, sorry, Chairman.
No, we haven't voted on the fees yet.
No, I understand where Steve is coming from.
Yeah.
I seconded Councillor Mrs. Grottick, and I stand by what I said. If she wishes to amend the charges for the first year to the sort of solution proposed by Councillor Sims, then I will second that nonetheless. Because in effect what he's saying is we introduce it incrementally, if it works.
Yes, and I would think people would be quite rightfully extremely upset about getting 110% increase on their fees, because they're forced to buy something they don't want, which is 12 months. So I think.
So I voted against?
Yes, I know, and I did.
Yeah, but we're only talking about the amount now. We're not talking about the principle.
I did qualify it a little bit, so I think we need to.
Councillor Mrs. Grottick, we need your
6 month. I would run with increasing the 6 monthly and making that 12
This
months.
is difficult, but in a way, what you have at the moment, it seems to me, is a floating pool of people who jump in, and then sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I would respectfully suggest that if you cannot put into your business plan and your costings that you think you can afford the level at which we're looking at a 12-month licence, then with great respect, you shouldn't actually be in the marketplace at all. That might sound a bit hard, but it might actually help people. If we start at a realistic fee for the 12 months to enable them to maximise their business and put as much effort that they need to put into it to make it work, I actually think sticking with my original proposal will actually be quite beneficial. Because you're not allowing a multitude of people to stick their toes in the water, you're actually making sure that in order to justify this expenditure, which is an increase, and justify the fact that you're buying a 12-month licence, you have done your cash flows, you've done your costings, and you've properly researched it before you come to the marketplace.
And the advantage of this would be, for example, when we do get out-of-season tourists, obviously a very, very small amount, but it takes into account things like if there are Christmas fairs or Christmas street parties or whatever they call them, I don't know, that there is no need to apply for another licence or a special licence. It's already covered, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
They don't actually apply for a licence.
Well, no,
at the
but you know
moment,
what I mean.
'cause
I mean,
fate.
it's covered by this.
But they could extend the time, certainly.
Sorry, can I suggest moving some way towards Councillor Sim's reservations? We move to a 12-month fee, but we hold the fees as are currently stated. We don't even go up the 3% for this year, and we evaluate at the end of the season. Just go some way towards recognising that it is a big increase. Otherwise, my
I would go for a 3% rise, because I think we've put a lot of other fees up by 50%.
All right.
And I think a slight...
However, it's not a 3% rise, it's a 100% rise. This is the problem.
I see, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's the issue. I just think it is extremely draconian putting up people's fees by 100%. What we could do, I mean, I would be quite happy if we took the 12-month fees and knocked them down by 30%, because they're getting something, they're being forced to buy something they don't want at twice the price, and it's not...
Still not very much a week.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but it depends what your margins are. I mean, I don't run any of these things, and I just, you know, and they're all set up
I
to go
think
next
that
year.
if you were trading last year, and you will have already worked out what you can do for next year, and to have a huge increase might just tip the balance of doing it or not doing it.
Again, I think what we should do is apply the 6-month fees and add 30, 40, 50%. I don't really mind, but we need to be looking at increasing the 6-month fees rather than increasing the 12 months, because people are being obliged to buy something they don't want.
Excuse me.
So actually, if you increased the 6 months fee by 50%, which would be 1,251, to make that the 12-month fee, which would reduce the 12-month fee by about 2,000, just under 2,000.
You don't mean 2,000, you mean 200.
200.
Yeah, well, yeah,
200.
that type of thing works. I think that is fair. Otherwise, it's just a ridiculous new burden, and I think that
So really, we need to make new figures for the 12-month fee
Excuse me,
altogether.
could someone please clarify exactly where we are?
I think Sue needs to clarify
I
that,
thought
so
we'd
she-
already voted to discount the 6
Yes,
months.
we are.
Yes.
We're going for a 12-month licence, right?
Yeah.
You've agreed that. What you're looking at now is figures, and under the heading 6-month fee, I think you are looking at calling that a 12-month fee, and then picking a percentage.
Of a rise.
For
That's
those.
why I said, the 50%
Is that-
rise
is that
would bring
where
it
you
to
are at the moment?
1,251.
Yeah.
Can I say, whereas I still completely endorse what Councillor Grotic said, I do listen and swayed by what Councillor Sims and Councillor Mrs Saville are saying, so I would prefer that we amend those figures so it isn't quite such a burden on the person. I do, however, welcome that we have voted for a 12-month licence. So if we can find some compromise where it goes up, but not to the level of frightening people off, that's good.
Well, if you,
I propose 35%, which seems to me the middle ground then, which would leave you...
1,125.
Yes, for a first application and 900 for a renewal, and then grade B, which is significantly less,
What's a grade B?
and that is your uncooked food.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
That's
just somebody
your
like
uncooked food.
selling vegetables or something.
Yes,
if they did,
presumably,
yeah.
yeah.
Have we got a seconder for that proposal, please? So we've got a proposal and a seconder, and this, to get this quite right, it's for a 12-month trading licence,
yeah.
but we're making the 6 months trading licence fees now into 12 months,
Yes.
and we're taking the 30%,
35%.
35%, which is £1,125.90.
Exactly.
Are you all clear about that?
Yeah. Perfectly clear.
I think that's the compromise.
So
position.
we've got a proposer and a seconder. Are you all in favour?
All right.
Thanks.
Got there.
Thank you.
Can I just add, I think this is a much more equitable way of doing it, because people can actually recoup some of that by working an extra 6 weeks. So,
Yeah.
but I think next year we need to sort of, perhaps next time we look at this, we need to take into account that lots of people pay business tax and these people don't. But I think perhaps we could give them notice of that. But you don't, you just can't put a huge new burden on people. Are you happy with that, Christine?
I'm fine, but bear in mind there's an awful lot of other people who run a business who don't pay business rates. But there's an awful lot of other people who actually run a business that don't pay business rates. So let's not just sort of,
And I think the key thing is this will be subject to review, evaluation and review. So, and then
I think we can do that in our October-November meeting.
Evidence will be available then.
Yes. Yeah.
So do we have to go to the renewal bit now?
We've done
Oh,
You, as far as I was aware, you took 35% down that
oh, the whole
line.
blocks. Beg your pardon.
Is that
I've
all
got
right?
it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got it.
That leads you on now to the static trading. Now,
So that's all that block. Gone to there.
Councillor Gwattick.
Thank you. Could somebody just clarify for me, the static trading site at the rear of the town hall, I understood that we had agreed, and they're currently partway through a 3-year term.
no, they are at the end of
Are
a
they at
3-year.
there? Goodness me, that went quickly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, okay. Thank you.
And it's out to tender, and the tender period is this Friday, the 27th, until the 3rd of February.
Can you tell us how many tenders you've actually got
I
at the
haven't
moment?
had any because we haven't put a price on it.
Right.
They have to have a minimum price under which we will not accept tenders, so that we know we've got a minimum amount coming in.
Councillor Mumford, are you... Right. So, have I any suggestions?
Well, I
Councillor
just
Sims.
wanted to ask Sue a question. I mean, there's only 2 businesses use this. I mean, when they previously we've done the tenders, did they just come in at the minimum and off we go, or has there been some sort of jockeying?
It's a tender process.
Yes, I realise that, but
we
I'm talking about prior, which I assume we can discuss. I don't know.
We said the last time that we would not accept anything under £1,000 a year, and they came in, I think, at 1,200. All right. So this year, you need to say what your absolute minimum will be.
Right. And
I gave you an example, if you recall, back in October, of a small shop with water and sewerage was £2,500 in business rates, and a site on the council land with no water and no sewage was 1,200, which is what they were paying. And you opted to put that up to 1,250 in October. But we need to be making more than that small amount.
could I ask, please, for the last 3 years we've had 2 people up there. I know there is going to be 3, I think, that are going to put in for this. But is there room to have all 3 up there?
No.
No, so there's only room for 2.
The ground slopes too much.
I thought so.
They have to be in those positions in order
Right.
to have,
Okay.
including their self-levelling and what other things they have to be in those positions.
So if 2 get it and the other one doesn't, is there anywhere else they can trade?
Well, the point about the fixed site trading is that it has access to electricity.
Mm-hmm. So there is nowhere else where that third person could trade?
There is nowhere that I am aware of that has electricity of that type.
I think the crucial thing, isn't it, that nowhere else that belongs to the council.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Chairman. I suggest a degree of uniformity in the sense that we've just gone for a 35% increase in the street trading. Therefore, it would seem sensible to look as a point of reference, if you like, a 35% increase in what we might expect, which would be 1,620. Let's round that down to a round figure and suggest that we wouldn't accept any tenders under 1,500.
So that was 25%.
Indeed, yes, that's so. But, at least my view would be at least that. I listen to colleagues, obviously.
I think we should examine the figure a bit more. I think 1,600 is fine. I don't, particularly if you've got competition for the spaces. I mean, obviously, I don't wish to sound mercenary, but we are in a position where we can take advantage of the fact there's more people would want it than are actually going, spaces are available.
It's only £30 a week. That's not a great amount.
No, and this is year round anyway. This, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Okay, so I would propose we do 35% all 1,600.
See, if you take the figure that we just did for ordinary street trading, that's not very much less than what a static one is with electricity.
That's my thinking, Molly. I think
Yeah.
the people who have these have security of their position.
Yeah.
Yes,
The other
that's right.
street traders don't have a security of position, and also these are the people who are creating quite a lot of waste and not paying commercial.
They do, it's in the contract. It's in the tender.
Well, in the light of Christine's comments, I would withdraw my proposal, and we can come up with something a little bit more sensible.
And I think I personally think the comparison between just over, it's not great enough for electricity and secure of position.
Excuse me, they pay for the electric themselves.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
they have
They've got
access.
access.
They have access to it.
Okay, fair enough.
So are you thinking, Councillor Saville, more on the lines of £2,000?
50%? 1,800?
1,800?
Have we got a proposal for that, please? Are you all in favour? You know what you're voting for. This is a static trading site,
Minimum.
minimum, to go on the tenders. And it's a 3-year contract. Yes?
Okay, right, thank you very much. That's the point. We won't look at anything less. And the last one, Chairman, is I need a panel of members. I would normally have just rung you and we'd arranged this, but seeing as the committee's meeting, I thought it was an ideal opportunity to pick members to actually look at these tenders and evaluate them with me so that we can sort this out, and so sometime after the 3rd of February.
How many do you want?
Well, I suggest that perhaps it's yourself and the Vice Chairman together with 1 or 2 other members.
So, Councillor Gottlieb, Councillor Mumford. And so if one of us wasn't available on that exact day, you'll have 3. Would that be enough?
Yeah,
Just
that'd
in
be fine.
case somebody's ill or...
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, no, that would be great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is that it?
Actually, can I withdraw that because
You might have
because I'm
difficulties.
part owner in a business, perhaps I better not go to the tendering, just in case somebody comes along and wants to sell newspapers up there or something. You never know, do you?
I see what you mean.
Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
Okay.
So let Councillor Grottick do it.
So, is there anybody else willing to volunteer?
Having experienced doing tenders before, I actually think Sue, Chair, Vice and Fran is more than enough for this. I mean, really, it just ends up taking too long, and usually it's fairly clear cut.
We don't have to take a vote on that, do we? Have to
No,
take-
no, that's fine.
So that brings us to the end of the meeting. Thank you very much.